Composed? Woosah.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today's video is titled How to Avoid Becoming the Next Ex-Vegan. And today I'm rejoined by Azita to provide an update on her SIBO recovery. So we did a call a few months ago with terrible audio quality. Hopefully it's not going to be as bad today. So we thought it would be a good idea to have a re-record with an update on Azita's health condition. So just as a refresh, Azita, do you want to start by reintroducing yourself, letting everyone know a bit about your digestive issues and how long they've been going on, etc.?
Yeah, so my name is Azita, and since I'm 36 now, and my health problems started when I was about 16, and that's when I was put on a really long course of antibiotics for my acne. But it's weird because they kept me on these tablets. Was it trimethoprim? Yeah, they kept me on trimethoprim for ages. They just kept repeating the prescription. So I just thought, all right, I'll just keep taking it for a good year. And then like problems started. I was constantly bloated. And I mean, like literally looking pregnant a good 8 months. It was just huge and really uncomfortable. And alongside that, I started with problems with my bladder. So I constantly felt like I needed to pee, but there was nothing really there. It would just trickle out, and there was just always pain and inflammation in my bladder. And the pain only really starts when I lie down, so I don't get good sleep. And I still have that problem now, but it's not that bad. It's not as bad as it used to be. So specialists have been trying to diagnose it. So they said it was interstitial cystitis. Then they said it was Fowler syndrome. Then they said it was painful bladder syndrome. And finally, about 5 months ago, they officially gave up and diagnosed it as a regional pain syndrome. So yeah, but it is a lot better now.
Okay.
Than what it used to be.
And you said your doctor's take on all of that was just go away, dietary modifications. Was there advice around any medications or anything like that? Or
about my bloating?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just like, it's IBS. And then they shoot me away. Yeah, like eliminating stuff. That's what they told me to do, just eliminate stuff. So they weren't very helpful. Okay.
So then obviously if we fast forward to earlier this year, we did some organic acids test, stool test and SIBO test on you. So if I just load my screen up quickly so people can see that. So we'll quickly run through these and just give people a quick catch up on sort of what issues you were having in terms of these test results.
Yeah.
So the test result that people can see there is obviously your SIBO test result, which came back for positive for for methane dominant SIBO. So for the people who don't know, SIBO just means that you've got an abnormal accumulation of bacteria within the small intestines where it shouldn't be. So anytime you eat any fiber or carbohydrates, that fiber and carbohydrates, just gets fermented and causes a lot of gas, a loss of bloating, a lot of cramping in some people. And longer term, that can run into autoimmune type problems in some people. So this, as you can see on screen now, so this section here on the left-hand side, which is highlighted up to 100 minutes, that's your small intestine. So this spike you can see here is where that lactulose solution is hitting your small intestines. It's being fermented by these bacteria and it's obviously producing methane gas. And then 100 minutes onwards, that's going into your colon. So obviously in your colon, that's where you would expect to see sort of a lot of fermentation, because that's where the majority of your gut bacteria resides. So we obviously got this back and we knew that SIBO was an issue for you. So that's one area that we needed to resolve. You also did the organic acids test results here. I'm not going to go through each and every marker on here because there are over 70 odd different ones. So I'm pretty sure people don't want to be here until Christmas going through this. But yeah, there were a few fluctuations on here, nothing too significant, but a few more issues that we needed to resolve. And then if we come to the comprehensive stool test, quick run through of this. So the red area on screen there at the top right hand corner, that's obviously showing dysbiotic and pathogenic flora, which you had none. Next to that, you have commensal bacteria. Everybody has commensal bacteria, but if it becomes overgrown, then it can become dysbiotic and pathogenic in nature. And then next to that, in the green section, you have your beneficial flora, so species like bifidobacterium, lactobacillus and stuff like that, which is pivotal for optimal gut health and gut integrity. So all in all, nothing too significant there. And then we came down to the second page of your test results, and there was obviously some yeast issues that we needed to resolve, and also a parasite that was detected as well on both your samples. So again, something else that sort of needed to be resolved. So in your situation, your main significant issue was the SIBO infection, and then you probably had, you know, a number of smaller issues feeding into a slightly larger issue that we needed to resolve and get on top of. Beyond that, it was really good to see that your digestion and absorption was perfectly fine and normal. So there was no sort of carbohydrate malabsorption, fat malabsorption or anything like that. And your elastase levels, which are pancreatic enzymes that help degrade certain proteins in the body, that was all perfectly fine and normal. So it was quite reassuring to see your test results in that the SIBO infection wasn't having a significant impact on sort of enzymes and, you know, other mechanisms within the. Also, just below that, you have inflammatory markers within the gut, such as lactoferrin, calprotectin, and lysozymes. So again, it was really reassuring to see that you weren't having some significant inflammatory response in the gut, because obviously if these type of inflammatory markers are elevated, then it can often allude to things like IBD, Crohn's, colitis, and more significant digestive disorders. So again, all in all, we knew that you had SIBO, we knew that you had parasites, some small yeast issues, but again, beyond that, everything was looking okay. So it was really for you, it was just putting you on a supplement regime for about, I think it was about 6 to 8 weeks, was that correct?
Yeah.
For about 6 to 8 weeks to kill off the SIBO, repair the gut lining, build up your gut integrity and everything like that. So do you just want to talk everyone through very quickly sort of that process, supplements, how you found that, whether you had any negative reactions, and yeah, just talk everyone through that process?
Yeah, so there were no problems taking them. I had no, oh wait, I did say that one of them made me feel nauseous, didn't I? When it was. I remember messaging you and said, oh, I feel nauseous, and you knew which one straight away would be making me feel nauseous.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's usually kind of berberine.
That was it.
Yeah, so it's usually berberine in some people. So, you know, usually you can continue taking that and the nausea and any excess gas or bloating will reside. Or, you know, if you are having issues like that beyond sort of 4 or 5 days, then it's probably advisable to swap that out to another type of antimicrobial. But yeah, continue.
So at first, like, you put me on like a whole food plant-based, well, that's what you put me on, and I had to cut out anything refined, all sugar. I remember messaging you saying, oh, can I have this? He was like, no. So it was pretty hard, like cutting out the sugar. That was a really big deal for me. But after a couple of weeks, it was easy, and I started feeling better about halfway through, and that's when the bloat stopped, and when I started losing weight, but in a good way, because I actually put on a lot of weight just from eating crap. I think I was at about 9.5 stone, and now I'm back to just under 8, which is what I used to be when I was healthy. But yeah, it was just there were no problems with the supplements. It was fine. I just felt a little bit of nausea from berberine, and I'm still on a whole foods plant-based diet. That's how I eat now, whole foods. I don't really eat junk.
Okay. And what was your diet like before? And I know you said you were eating a few sneaky bits here and there, but what was your diet like pre sort of SIBO diagnosis?
What I've noticed as well, by the way, since I've got better, my appetite isn't as massive, because before it was just like a bottomless pit. I was always hungry, and my partner would say to me like that I would be having bigger portions than he was, so I was overeating. But how would I eat? Not like terrible. I ate a lot of bread, I have an addiction to bread, so that was really what led to me putting on a lot of weight. Trying to think what else. Just a lot of like chips, stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's what really led to me putting on the weight. It was the bread. I was constantly eating. I could have a whole baguette. If Keith would buy a baguette from the supermarket, I'd eat the whole thing.
Okay. And obviously you said then within sort of, I think 4 to 6 weeks or so, you started to get sort of improvements. So you want to sort of talk through that process about, you know, when you started to notice the improvements and then what happened in terms of symptoms from that period onwards?
I stopped getting bloat. So now like my tummy is just always flat. So halfway through, that's when I noticed like, well, I just wasn't bloating anymore when I was eating. And my tummy is just always flat. It's just, I know it's just something that I've always wanted to get back, just not constantly looking pregnant. I think that for me is like the most amazing thing, that I've got my tummy back. So yeah, no more bloating, and the symptoms with my bladder are a lot better. I don't have as much pain anymore, because I think the two of them are linked. I don't think I'll ever get completely better because I think there's been some permanent damage, but I'm a lot better than I was. So I stopped bloating and the pain in my bladder got a lot better, and that was about halfway through.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to say, isn't it, with certain medications, antibiotics and stuff, because certain antibiotics, and I can attest to that myself and my own health issues with antibiotics. Yeah. There are some antibiotics that can cause longer term issues, but it certainly appears that you're moving in the right direction at the moment, which is good. Okay.
My whole teenage life was on antibiotics, though, all the way up until even in my early 20s. I've been on them, nearly all of them. So it's no wonder. It wasn't just trimethoprim, it was everything. My acne, they put me on everything, even up to Roaccutane.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of people I see with tetracyclines, Roaccutane, those type of medications, who are dealing with the fallout of those medications for many years afterwards. So I think that's certainly a topic for another video, and it makes me laugh now. Doctors, when you go to a doctor now, they'll say, actually, you can't have this antibiotic, despite them giving them out like Smarties for the last 30 years, and then trying to push the blame back on us. But it's certainly a topic for another video. Okay, so you obviously started to get these improvements when you started taking the antimicrobials. Now, I get a lot of pushback online. People will say to me, oh, well, Goji Man's just using antimicrobials, or they're going to a doctor getting an antibiotic to kill off the SIBO infection, and it's only a matter of time before that infection comes back. Like, you can't, once you've got SIBO, a lot of people will say, well, you can't get rid of it. So we're now, how far are we out since you took the antimicrobials? It's about 7 or 8 months or so.
Yeah, it's been ages. I didn't know that people say it comes back.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with SIBO infections, and more evidence is coming through now about this, but typically people say, well, actually, you don't want to be eating a food that fuels a bacteria. So, for example, if you have SIBO and then you add in fiber, people just assume that fiber is going to fuel that bacteria to grow out of control even more. But we know from lots of different science coming through now that people who go on low FODMAP approaches, or they go on low carbohydrate approaches, they tend to have very high relapse rates. And this is still an emerging area of science. It's not conclusive or anything like that, but I tend to find that if I don't restrict their diet, just take out some of the processed refined foods, but continue them on sort of fiber rich foods, the relapse rates for those people don't tend to be too significant compared to sort of general SIBO populations. Look, that's another topic for another video as well. It needs to be looked into in a bit more detail, but I don't necessarily think it's the be all and end all that if you have SIBO, you have to restrict all carbohydrates, because it's not something that I typically see.
I eat a lot of rice. That's my main go-to for carbohydrate. Potatoes. Even when I have like a junk food day, I don't bloat. The first day I came off the plan and I finished everything, we went straight to, is it V-Revs in Manchester?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I a massive burger and chips and ice cream, and I didn't bloat.
One of everything, please.
Yeah, it was amazing. I think I messaged you and just said, like, I've just literally eaten everything at V-Revs and I haven't bloated. It was just great. Believe it, because that's the kind of thing that would have really messed me up before. And yeah, it's not really an issue for me. Sometimes I might get a little bit of bloat if I eat junk and it's tiny bloat, and then it just goes away.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody experiences bloating now and again. Like, our guts ferment food, so clearly there's going to be an element of sort of bloating and gas and things like that. Obviously, if it becomes out of control, then you obviously need to get on top of that, or else it can manifest into different digestive disorders. But it certainly seems like you're moving in the right direction, which is really cool then. Just changing the tack of the video slightly. So the video is titled "How to Avoid Becoming the Next Ex-Vegan." So what would you personally say to people like, and obviously keep this clean, Bobby's perspective, Tim Keith, and those other ex-vegans who say, no, the vegan diet did this to me, therefore the vegan diet is bad for people?
What would I say to those people?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Unfortunately, yes, but that's the reality of what
I know, but I'm the worst person to ask to keep it clean.
It's different.
What would I say?
I think you've got, when you look at these people and without any form of testing or anything, they self-diagnose and say, you know, this is categorically the vegan diet doing this to me, when they've never tested, they've never looked at any digestive disorders or anything like that.
All of these people have one thing in common though, don't they? They flip-flop between doing really, I mean, he says he was vegan, but he was starving himself, and he was doing all that fringe kind of stuff. And I've never ever heard an ex-vegan who just ate normally. I just don't understand. They just flip-flop between weird fads, like, and I think that is the reason why. Just try not to swear. Just eat normally. It's not hard.
It's really not, but a lot of these people will counteract that and say, well, actually, they only tried those fringe diets because their health was failing in the first place. To which I would always say, well, a lot of people come in, or, you know, track into veganism because they've got, you know, veganism isn't a diet, by the way, but people come into veganism for different reasons, and a lot of people come into veganism because their health is failing in the first place. So they see on social media, online, you know, if you've got a digestive problem, if you've got Crohn's, if you've got colitis, then a vegan plant-based diet can help many people resolve those type of issues. So there are a lot of people coming into sort of vegan and plant-based diets who will basically say, or will start struggling almost immediately, because if you've got SIBO, and SIBO can, frequency of SIBO varies from anywhere from 50 to 80% of people with IBS type symptoms. So it's quite wide stream in the masses. So if you've got people with IBS type symptoms and you load up on lots of fiber, it's obviously going to cause gas and bloating and cramping in some people. But I think I just ultimately get really frustrated with these people because they're so narrow-minded, and they say, regardless of any known science out there regarding any of these digestive disorders, IBS, SIBO, parasites, any of that, all of that is wrong based on nothing more than their feeling.
I honestly think it's because they're so desperate to sort of push back on veganism, right? Like, Bobby is obsessed with it. He's obsessed with, like, talking about how bad the plant-based diet was for him. I'm not even going to call him vegan because he was never vegan. But I think the reason he's doing it, I think deep down he knows, like, the suffering that animals go through is wrong. And I think that's why he's so obsessed with, like, trying to... Do you know what I mean? I
wish I could believe that, but I mean, I was the other day... I thought, you know, some of these ex-vegans and stuff, I thought I'd have a look at their social media stats. So Bobby's Perspective, had a look on Social Blade, and for the last 5 or 6 years, his channel's flatlined. It's done absolutely nothing. It's not grown. It's not had any real views or traction or anything.
Really?
If you look on Social Blade, the minute he mentioned the word ex-vegan, his channel started to pop. So for me, now he's just going, actually, maybe I can run with this. Maybe it's got some longevity. Maybe I can make some money out of this, and go down that avenue with it. But I'd like to think he's just misguided slightly. But when I see kind of trends within people's social networks and stuff like that, I often think, well, actually, he's probably just spotted a bit of a trend here, and now he can kind of live off the back of that slightly, because I don't believe he works or anything. So he's clearly making money from YouTube to some extent. So
there are people in the vegan movement that are a bit like that. It's just really depressing. They're kind of like lost sight of what this is about. I just try and stay away from all of that, because when, you know, the stuff that me and Keith see is just so depressing. Like, I just can't cope with looking at people like Bobby and all the crap that comes out of his mouth. That makes me dead sad, because if being vegan wasn't for you, fine. But why the, right, that's a swear. Why do you have to like go and like tell everybody? Because if you start getting everyone on board, that's just more animals that are going to suffer. If I ever, which I wouldn't, couldn't be vegan, plant-based, whatever, for whatever reason, I would never go around telling people that, because that I wouldn't want people to follow what I'm doing, which is making animals suffer.
Yeah, and that's, you're basing that solely on your own experience as well. You're basically saying, because this is not working for me at the moment, and bearing in mind, I don't believe Bobby's Perspective have ever looked into kind of any form of testing. He's just basically gone, well, actually, my digestive system's struggling eating more fruits and vegetables. Therefore, it must be bad, and therefore, I'm going to go and tell everybody else about that. So what he's doing is not only reckless, it's unsafe.
Absolutely. And I think the problem is that humans think that animals, it's an option to eat them. It should never be an option. Like, yeah, fine, whatever is going on with your health, but how is that the problem of an innocent animal? It's like going up to a pig, oh, sorry, my digestion's really bad, so you need to die because I need to eat you. That's insanity. So another animal has to lose their life because of your health problems, which I sympathise with, but what's it got to do with the animal? Nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
that's how we see it.
Yeah, we were talking about this just before we come online, and I was saying at the time, so I deal with people with Crohn's and colitis and quite significant digestive disorders. So there are smaller minorities of people out there, regardless of what they try and eat in terms of fruits and vegetables, it just causes an absolute world of pain for these people. And there is no way for some of these people, because a lot of the time it's reasons out of their control, or not so much out of their control, but, you know, they've been led by doctors in terms of having large sections of their intestines removed, or it's very powerful antibiotics which have just destroyed their gut. So a lot of these people are in a situation now where they can't sort of eat fruits and vegetables. But I always say, and like I said to you earlier on, these people are in the absolute minority. So when you hear a lot of these ex-vegans, they'll always push these people who can't eat fruits and vegetables, but they won't acknowledge that these people are in the minority. They'll always say, well, there are thousands of people on social media that shows how bad you know, a vegan plant-based diet is. But, you know, they're even saying it themselves. They're saying there are thousands of people on social media, but the problem with that, there isn't thousands of people in the world, there's billions. So these are the absolute fringe and minority of people who are having these type of issues. So like you say, I've got absolute sympathy with these people, and I'll always try and help them where possible. And the reality is, for these people, it will take them eating sort of animals in the form, well, obviously not eating meat or fish, but they will incorporate eggs and milk into their diet, and it's the only way they can sustain themselves, because if they don't do that, then a lot of these people die prematurely.
That's like a really painful scenario to be in. So I'm just really glad I'm not in your shoes. Like, so what what do you do?
Yeah,
I'm stumped on that.
yeah, it's difficult, and obviously in that scenario, and I think you touched the nail on the head earlier on when you were saying that you have to do the minimal amount of damage you can. So if these people can survive on eggs and milk or something like that and live a reasonable life after sort of incorporating those products into their diet, then that's the ideal situation, rather than eating and killing animals and fish and all of that other side. So but it's ultimately it's that patient's call, what they're comfortable with and their choice.
I mean, if that's what it takes to get them, I mean, could you imagine if that was like a hardcore activist, and if that's what it took to get them healthy, to back on the road to being vegan and getting back into activism and rescuing animals, then I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so where you're at now then with everything, so fast forward 8 months later, now scoffing chocolates and crisps.
I do eat a lot of dark chocolate. I do have that in the cupboard because I do have a sugar addiction. So I just limit it to just having dark chocolate. But I used to drink like 10 cups of tea a day with a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of sugar. Before I did your plan, that's what I was doing. I don't drink tea anymore.
Okay.
So I just have a bit of dark chocolate. But I just eat healthy. I just eat rice and beans. I keep it simple. I love it.
Cool. And your advice to people in a similar situation, any potential ex-vegans out there who are on the edge and they're looking at either sort of incorporating meat or animal products, or they're thinking about carnivore diets because at the moment digestive system is trashed, all of that. What would your advice to these people be?
To get in contact with you and just get the tests. That's what I don't understand about a lot of the ex-vegans like Tim. He had all the resources and people like you that were offering to help, and he didn't take it, and I just don't understand.
It's difficult, and I don't really want to rake up the past with people like Tim. But it's exactly that. So I funded the test for him with people's Patreon money, so that his testing came from a lot of vegans trying to look out for him, and for him to go down that avenue, and by that point he was eating sort of fish and stuff like that, not even disclosing that at the point at which we were trying to help him. I think that's a bit of a kick in the teeth. But it's I don't understand.
Like, if you're truly vegan, you would literally go to the ends of the earth to find a way to get better without contributing to animals suffering. I just don't understand.
Yeah, but
try everything, right?
Yeah, in a lot of these situations, I mean, like Tim Sheaf and Bobby's perspective, I don't know because I don't really know the ins and outs of his health problems. But Raw Varna, some of these other people, they are simple digestive issues that you can resolve fairly routinely. If you know what the issue's coming from, then within a period of 6 to 8 weeks, maybe slightly longer, maybe slightly shorter, depending on the problems, you can usually get on top of those problems and resolve them fairly quickly. So when these people say, I've tried all of these different things and nothing's worked, therefore my only option is this, I almost laugh and feel sorry for them at the same time, because it's like, well, no, you haven't even tried the basics. A lot of the time you haven't been to see a doctor. A lot of the time you haven't been to see a nutritionist or dietitian. You kind of sweep all of that to one side, and your arrogance, your know-all, just clouds that mind and mindset. It's just,
I don't understand. I don't understand what the desperation is to. I honestly think they're being paid to do it. Why would you be so desperate? Why would you be so desperate to eating animals? And it's like they're really, really desperate to go that way. Why? That's what I think. I think they're being paid.
I don't know. I'm not so. I don't know. Anything's possible out there. Money's kind of the root of all evil for a lot of people.
It's money. It's all about money. All of this. I don't get it. I don't know how any of them couldn't have jumped at the chance of just getting you to help them.
Yeah, but it's one of those, like, I push back on this a lot of the time, because people say to me, when I come to YouTube, it's like, people's like Bobby's perspective and call me out and say, "Oh, Goji Man's this messiah," or anything like that. It's like, it just makes me laugh with these people, because like, I don't claim to be anything I'm not. I'm a nothing more than a nutritionist. In a lot of these people, you know, maybe 30-40% is going to take more investigation than my tests offer, and my tests aren't the root fix for everyone. And I've always said that. But when you're not even doing the basics, and you question sort of veganism, plant-based diets on nothing more than kind of a warped mindset, yeah, it's just frustrating, really. But anyway, let's move on from that. So finally, where you're at now, so in terms of gas, bloating, all of that, so you're back to, what are we talking now, 90, 95%, 100%, they're all thereabouts?
What, with bloating being gone?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, my only symptom was like, I didn't have like constipation or anything like that. It was the bloating. I was just constantly bloated to the point I didn't want to go out because I was just so uncomfortable, and it made me lethargic. I just don't have that anymore.
Okay, awesome. And in terms of quality of life now, compared to before, how has this kind of improved things for you?
Physically, like, I'm great. I just need to go to the gym. But yeah, physically everything's perfect. I sometimes, like, I'll say to Keith, like, I still can't believe like I've got back to normal, because I was just like giving up. But when I watched your videos and started looking into it, it just makes sense. I don't understand how people can't watch your videos and not think this makes absolute sense. I don't get it. It just takes a little bit of research. If you really care about your health, you'll read anything you can about it. And that's what I did. And then it was very obvious to me that I had SIBO. And when I came across your videos, I was like, oh my God, yeah, I've got SIBO. It's so obvious. Just need to get the test to confirm it. I just think people can't be asked researching.
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay, any final comments or thoughts about anything you want to rant on or vent about, or anything else that you'd like to stick to the world?
No, not really. I just think, yeah, sorry, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I just think animals just should never be an option. And I think that's the problem. Humans just think that they're an option if things go haywire. They're not. They're living. It's life. They're not an option. I don't know. I could rant for ages, but I can't swear either, so.
Not another video. We'll have to have a late night version of Goji Man where you rant properly.
Because on my last video, my friends messaged me and went, "You do realise you used the F-bomb like 3 times on his family-friendly channel."
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do a late night version with the Azita or something like that.
I'm down for that.
Cool. Well, look,
thank you so much, though, for everything, mate.
No, you're absolutely welcome. My pleasure. Look, thanks so much for joining. Enjoy the rest of your week and weekend and eating all of those nice treats and chocolates and all of that good stuff. And no doubt we'll speak again very soon.
Thanks, mate.